in the wakes of this stabbing slash vehicle attempted running over and, yes, shooting out in California from this young, deranged 22-year-old young man who took the lives of 7 people, or actually 6 people, and in his life included. It bears pointing out that, yes, 3 of these people died at the hands of this individual with a knife, and then 3 others with pistols. And so the push is on again from the left to, of course, not ban knives, not ban vehicles, but ban guns. Because it's the NRA's fault and it's guns' fault, right? Okay. Edwin Walker is a native Texan who earned his bachelor in law degrees at the University of Houston. He's a licensed attorney for 21 years, partnered with Walker and Byington, program attorneys for Texas Law Shield, a Texas legal service company devoted to firearms law. Law practice concentrates on firearms and self-defense issues across the state of Texas. Edwin, a pleasure to have you here on the program.
Well, thank you for having me, Chris.
All right, so let's talk about this. The efforts, every single time we have one of these heart-wrenching, gut-wrenching incidents, the left can hardly wait to start pushing their agenda. While they lecture us when things go wrong, internationally, when there's an international disaster like Mr. Obama's foreign policy, and then we start talking about it, then we're scolded by the left. Say, it's too early to talk about this stuff. But the ink wasn't even dry talking about this guy that went crazy out there with stabbings and shootings and trying to run people over with his car. Then the left was trying to say, we need to ban all guns. There's no wait time between the press time and when they start calling for this. First off, what are you guys doing to combat this knee-jerk reaction that we constantly see from the left?
Well, obviously, right now, what it would take is just reacting to any kind of political activism on the national or state level that might try to limit the firearms rights and the self-defense rights that we have right now. So far, it's just been a lot of rhetoric. I don't know if it's going to materialize in a new push. There have been rumblings, but they come from what I like to call the usual suspects. I've heard where Rahm Emanuel is going to impose some sort of very restrictive requirements on gun stores in Chicago. California is now talking about something called a gun violence protective order, which seems like a very, very slippery slope. It's got a catchy name, but it seems like a very slippery slope. Apparently under that ruling, it does address mental health issues, but apparently under that sort of scheme, anybody can go ahead and swear out an affidavit that says, hey, I think this person's crazy and might shoot up somebody, and the police can then come and arbitrarily take all their guns away. Here in Texas, we actually had last year, the legislature actually created a process whereby they attempted to strike a balance to that, and we haven't seen, it's only been effective for the last September 1st, but it seems to strike a balance between the police being able to come out, and if they can reasonably establish that they believe that this person is a threat to themselves or someone else, they can lawfully take their guns, but they have to provide written notice to the person, giving them notice about a certain number of days where they can come get them back. And then in the eventuality that they can't give them back, because let's say that somebody is truly mentally deranged and gets committed as such, the police do have to return the guns to the next of kin of the person. And so Texas tried to strike a balance between, let's try to keep the guns out of the hands of crazy people, but we're not going to treat it as basically an open-ended device for the police to start confiscating guns and not giving them back. It does have some very strict time requirements about when the police have to return weapons once there's been determined to be no threat.
Edwin Walker is my guest right now with Texas Law Shield. So we had Sylvia Gearing, who is a psychologist, on with us, talking about this whole idea. Now, you didn't mention the medical community's role in this whatsoever. My big idea, and I'm not sure what the pitfalls are behind this, but maybe we set up a standard to where this kid was under psychiatric care since he's 8 years old. I mean, if anybody didn't deserve to be able to purchase firearms, it was this cat, right? But, you get the ACLU start talking about people's rights and all this kind of stuff when, the rights of those who are nuts. So what about this idea? Tell me where I'm going wrong about having a database where you have somebody who's under the care of a clinical psychologist, and then a corroborating diagnosis from another psychologist, either outside of that medical group or in a different city or something like that, to corroborate that. And that's enough to get these individuals placed on a database. Once they have completed treatment and they're certified by these medical professionals to be cured, if you will, because we know mental stress can be a temporary thing, and that's why you go to mental health professionals to help you with this kind of stuff. But maybe that we can have it in a database that folks who are selling firearms can easily cross-reference, and as to whether or not to sell the individuals like this nutcase in California a gun or not. What's wrong with that idea?
I don't know that there's anything wrong with it in theory. There may be some difficulties putting it into practice. The problem, as you see, is that, and this is particularly an issue, California has sort of created a perfect storm, or the ripe environment for something like this to happen, because they've imposed all their all the gun control laws that they're allowed to have. I mean, the place where this happened, they had greater background checks than.
How'd that work out, by the way? The strictest gun laws in the country. How'd that work out? That stopped this guy from shooting up some people? No,
it did not.
No, it did not.
They have their magazine capacity limits, and this guy lived in an area where the sheriff doesn't find concealed handgun permits. But we see that this happened.
Now, what if another law-abiding citizen had a weapon of their own, more easily attainable? Maybe that would have been a deterrent to this kid. Or after he did his first shooting, maybe the other two would have been spared, as a citizen would have pulled out a gun and taken him out.
Well, the thing that strikes me is that he killed his 3 roommates, or his 2 roommates and a visitor. He killed those folks with a knife.
With a knife, yeah.
And I don't, like I said, I don't know how he did it. I don't know if he snuck up on them in the middle of the night or what. But killing 3 people with a knife would seem to be a very difficult and ruckus-causing process.
Sure.
If one of those 3 persons would have had a gun in their house, in their possession, the place where you're supposed to feel the safest, and you have an absolute right to have a handgun, the Supreme Court has said that, but if one of those 3 individuals would have had a handgun, this whole tragedy probably could have been ended right there. If not, even if they did not kill this individual, a gun is one of the primary tools used to subdue the individual.
Exactly. Edwin Walker from Texas Law Shield. Look, I'm a firm believer that we need to be part of the solution, because if we leave it up to left-wingers, they're going to screw it up like they do everything else. So we want to keep you in the Rolodex, get you back on. Keep us posted, will you please? Edwin Walker, Texas Law Shield, sir. Appreciate your time and expertise in the voice of Texas. Get in the line right now, 281-558-5738, 281-558-KSEV, and Russell Sherrill with sports coming up.